Top Gun is about speed, camaraderie, and seemingly invincible young pilots. The film gives us the illusion that confidence and courage can conquer anything. But life outside the cockpit is much harder. Some beloved actors have experienced painful downfalls, sudden losses, and tragic deaths. Let's remember them and honor their legacy. Clarence Gilliard Jr. himself played the sundown radar operator in the 1986 film Top Gun. At the age of 31, he gave a masterful performance in one of the classic aviation films of the 1980s. This small role would later become one of the most memorable moments in a career that was marked by discipline rather than dominance. Born Clarence Darnell Gilliard Jr. on December 24, 1955, in Moses Lake, Washington, Clarence Darnell struggled with a subtle but persistent disability for much of his career. Although Hollywood valued his intelligence and integrity, it rarely offered him influential roles. After achieving worldwide fame in 1988 for his role as Theo in the film Live Hard, he remained mostly in supporting roles, appearing on the big screen but rarely landing leading roles. Over time, his physical limitations influenced his decisions more than his goals. Type 2 diabetes subtly altered his usual regimen, requiring regular checkups and time off from demanding work. The disease progressed slowly but surely, and with it came cardiovascular disease, which turned everyday life into a deliberate struggle for survival. Instead of giving up, Gilliard poured her energy into her work. She became a professor of acting at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and has since devoted herself to teaching acting in theater and film. In addition to his academic career, he continued to appear in select projects, such as A Matter of Faith, 2014, choosing roles that reflected his physical limitations and personal values. Clarence Gilliard Jr. died on November 28, 2022, at the age of 66, after a long battle with diabetes and cardiovascular disease. He died at his home in Las Vegas and was cremated after a private ceremony. At the time of his death, his fortune was estimated at around $5 million, reflecting a life he dedicated to acting, learning, and unwavering discipline rather than luxury. Frank Pesci as a bartender. In the 1986 film Top Gun, Frank Pesci played a bartender, an ordinary employee. He appeared briefly at the age of 40, emphasizing the strong masculinity of film with his unique and authentic presence. This fleeting moment personified his entire career. Born in New York on December 8, 1946, Frank Pesci struggled for decades to gain recognition in a film industry that barely acknowledged him. He worked tirelessly, appearing in over 80 films, but always remained in the shadows. His roles in Beverly Hills Cop, 1984, and Midnight Shift, 1988, brought him stardom, but his fame was fleeting. The imbalance between effort and recognition led to constant financial and psychological problems. The disease had overshadowed his life long before his death. Pesci survived cancer and continued to work despite increasing physical weakness. A few years later, he was diagnosed with an even more serious illness, dementia, a disease that attacks memory rather than muscles. The disease impaired his ability to remember lines, recognize faces, and live independently, gradually distancing him from the acting career that had so profoundly defined him. As his dementia progressed, his professional opportunities became increasingly limited. One of his final film roles was in 2015's Creed, ending a string of roles that began decades earlier with The Godfather Part 2, in which he had previously played an uncredited supporting role. His departure from Hollywood was gradual, more of a quiet farewell. Frank Pesci died on February 6, 2022, at the age of 75, in Burbank, California, from complications of dementia. He was buried at St. Raymond's Cemetery in the Bronx and returned to his roots. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at around $2 million, a testament to his hard work. Tom Cruise played Maverick, a daring Navy pilot, in the 1986 film Top Gun. At the age of 24, he conquered the film world with his combination of arrogance, charm, and boundless ambition, shaping an entire generation in the blink of an eye. This role not only brought him fame, but also created a public image that has haunted him for decades. Since then, he has been under immense pressure to maintain that image with every step he takes. Born in Syracuse, New York on July 3, 1962, Thomas Cruise Mapother IV built his career in an atmosphere of constant tension. His devotion to the Church of Scientology became a professional problem, costing him public recognition and reportedly straining his relationships with film studios at the height of his fame. Criticism continued even as he directed blockbusters like Mission Impossible, 1996 to 2025. Accusations of manipulative, aggressive, and compulsive behavior dogged him from set to set. Cruise has been physically tested to the limit. His obsession with dangerous stunts has led to several injuries, perhaps most famously an ankle injury he suffered on the set of 2018's Mission Impossible Fallout, when a botched rooftop jump nearly halted filming. Although Cruise has never spoken publicly about his chronic illnesses, years of extreme stress, physical trauma, and psychological pressure have taken their toll. Instead of slowing down, Cruise has thrown himself into the game even harder. In the years leading up to 2026, he made films like Top Gun and Maverick, 2022, turning nostalgia into a billion-dollar phenomenon that culminated in his long career as Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible Retaliation, 2025. He continues to make films, travel by train, fly by plane, and take on physically demanding projects, unlike most actors his age who are safety conscious. In 2026, Tom Cruise will be 64 years old and will continue to be a central figure in Hollywood action scenes. He is still actively involved in film production, performing complex stunts and participating in international projects. His net worth is estimated at around $600 million, and his legacy is built on risks, not just financial and professional, but also physical and psychological. Tim Robbins as Merlin. Tim Robbins portrayed Merlin, a brilliant Navy pilot, in the 1986 film Top Gun. At 28 years old, he was not known for his heroism, but rather for his elegance. He displayed an intelligence that didn't easily fit into Hollywood stereotypes. This subtle difference would later define both his greatest successes and his most serious professional conflicts. Robbins was born on October 16, 1958, in West Covina, California, and his career took off quickly, though not without challenges. The success of Bull Durham, 1988, and later The Shawshank Redemption, 1994, brought him widespread critical acclaim. However, his refusal to separate art and politics led to conflicts. His harsh criticism of the Iraq War and the indifference of the film industry cost him valuable contracts, offers, and connections. Hollywood recognized his talent but was wary of his voice. The pressure mounted in the first decade of the 21st century. Although Robbins won an Oscar in 2003 for Mysterious River, he felt his position was becoming increasingly precarious. Film projects were being canceled for no apparent reason, and studios were becoming increasingly cautious. He later described this period as a personal and creative crisis. He wondered how much of himself he was willing to sacrifice to keep his job. Instead of retiring, Robbins focused on other projects. He dedicated himself to community projects, directed the film Dead Man Walking, and then later expanded his acting career to include television series and stage roles, including Here and Now, Castle Rock, and Silo. These roles traded familiar comfort for depth, allowing him to explore power, guilt, and moral decay without compromise. In 2026, at the age of 68, Tim Robbins is still active, openly expressing his political views and working creatively and independently. His net worth is estimated at around $70 million. His career is a rare example of faith triumphing and rich rewards. Val Kilmer played the cold and calculating competitive pilot Iceman in the 1986 film Top Gun. At just 27 years old, he brought icy precision and quiet menace to the screen, creating the perfect contrast to Maverick's chaotic nature. This role made him unforgettable, but it also created an image in him that he couldn't shake. From then on, perfection and perseverance were inseparable. Val Edward Kilmer, born in Los Angeles, California, on December 31, 1959, embodied this contradiction throughout his career. She earned critical acclaim for her roles in 1991's The Doors and 1993's Tombstone, but she was also known as a difficult actress, a reputation that gradually closed many doors for her. Her roles became increasingly rare, not because of a lack of talent, but because of the difficulty of working with other actors. The illness changed everything. Kilmer was diagnosed with nasopharyngeal cancer in 2014. He underwent chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and multiple tracheostomies, which permanently damaged his natural voice. Communication became mechanical, strained, and at times humiliating. The disease not only threatened his life, but also destroyed the foundations of his profession. But Kilmer didn't disappear from the scene. In Val, 2021, He dealt with his own struggles and revealed a vulnerability that's rare among Hollywood icons. He most recently returned as Iceman in 2022's Top Gun: Maverick. His voice was digitally altered, but his presence remained remarkably authentic. In recent years, he has devoted himself to writing, painting, and recording his life story, realizing that time no longer matters. Val Kilmer died on April 1st, 2025, at the age of 65, from pneumonia and respiratory failure caused by complications from long-term cancer. He died at his home in Los Angeles and was later cremated. His estimated net worth at the time of his death, approximately $25 million, reflected a brilliant and successful career, although one marked by losses. The lead role of Carol Bradshaw is played by Meg Ryan. Carol Bradshaw, Goose's sweet and practical wife, was played by Meg Ryan in the 1986 film Top Gun. At the age of 25, her brief but memorable role brought a touch of spice to the film, full of intense action and male rivalry. This small role came shortly before her life took a dramatic turn. The subsequent rise was not smooth, but rather a clash of fame and expectations. Born on November 19, 1961 in Fairfield, Connecticut, Ryan began his career in dramatic roles. After films like Harry and Sally, 1989, and Sleepless in Seattle, 1993, he became a romantic icon of Hollywood. But success limited his options. Studios expected repetition, not further development, and when he broke this habit with the films Courage Under Fire, 1996, and then In Bruges, 2003, the reaction was harsh. Fear of retaliation, curiosity turned into betrayal. Public pressure only made the situation worse. The media worldwide was obsessed with her appearance and ridiculed her deeply personal choices. Rumors of plastic surgery overshadowed her acting achievements and devoted decades to fleeting gossip in the press. She was denied roles, not for lack of talent, but because the film industry forbade her from changing careers. Instead of fighting stereotypes, Ryan focused his energy elsewhere. He moved away from the constant spotlight, choosing fewer projects and more control. In the following years, he starred in independent films before finally turning to directing. And in 2015, he created the quiet and profound work Ithaca, which reflected his own detachment from the noise. Her comeback in 2023 with What Happens Next showed maturity and acceptance of loss rather than denial, signaling a shift from acting to writing. Starting in 2026, Meg Ryan, 65, will focus on directing, writing, and casting rather than pursuing fame. With an estimated net worth of around $85 million, she no longer measures her success by celebrity status. His legacy rests on a harsh truth. To survive in Hollywood, you sometimes have to know when and why to give up. Kelly McGillis plays Charlie, a calm and composed schoolteacher, in the 1986 film Top Gun. 29-year-old Charlie exudes a confidence and intelligence that belies the film's grittiness. But behind her elegant exterior lies a traumatic past that fame cannot heal or protect. Kelly Ann McGillis was born on July 9, 1957, in Newport Beach, California. Her early success in the films Witness, 1985, and later The Accused, 1988, made her one of Hollywood's most recognized actresses. However, her career was marked by constant pressure. Over the years, the number of film offers dwindled, not because his talent was declining, but because the film industry quietly distanced itself from him. Offers became rarer and eventually stopped altogether, forcing him to accept smaller projects and ultimately leading to his departure from mainstream cinema. The professional pressure was compounded by the severe psychological trauma he had experienced. McGillis survived multiple sexual assaults from adolescence into adulthood. These experiences led to post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, depression, and long-term substance abuse. These were not abstract problems. They affected her ability to work, her self-esteem, and her ability to succeed in a field where vulnerability is often more punishing than failure. Instead of promoting innovation, he retreated from public life. Later, McGillis consciously focused on darker, more introspective projects, such as Stakeland, 2010, and We Are What We Are, 2013. Roles that reflected resilience rather than glamour. In addition to acting, he devoted himself to teaching and working with victims of addiction, transforming his past into a low-key, engaged persona rather than publicly exploiting it. In 2026, McGillis, 69, lives far from the hustle and bustle of Hollywood, devoting himself to teaching, rehab, and a fulfilling private life. His estimated net worth of around $4 million is not a sign of bankruptcy, but rather a conscious refusal to sacrifice security and dignity for a long career in an industry that once respected him but then turned its back on him. Michael Ironside, who played Jester, the sniper instructor, in the 1986 film Top Gun, was a remarkable actor. At 36, he brought a captivating authenticity to the cockpit. His voice sounded less like that of a movie character and more like the voice of a man who had overcome pressure, failure, and power. His brief but memorable role laid the foundation for a successful career. Born in Toronto, Canada, on February 12, 1950, Ironside earned a reputation for his intensity rather than charm. After his breakthrough role as a villain in Scanners, 1981, Hollywood limited his number of roles to a limited number. Adversaries, villains, characters who were meant to intimidate rather than inspire. Films like Total Recall, 1990, and later Starship Troopers, 1997, cemented his status as a cult hero, but they also limited him. He worked constantly, but rarely had a regular professional life. The financial pressures of playing a fascinating villain often forced him to take roles out of necessity rather than choice. But the real struggle was off-screen. In early 2000, Ironside was diagnosed with thyroid cancer and later with other illnesses, including colon and prostate cancer. The surgery changed his body and weakened his immune system, forcing him to face the risk of losing both his career and his voice. Despite his deteriorating health, he returned to film, continuing to work on projects such as The Machinist, 2004, and voicing characters in Splinter Cell. In this way, he turned his limitations into adaptability. Instead of retiring, Ironside continued his career. He chose voice acting, television roles, and roles that required less physical exertion but offered greater psychological depth. He appeared in series such as The Flash, Alienist, and later Nobody, 2021. For him, each role was not a reinvention of himself, but a fight for survival. Despite pain, dyslexia, ADHD, and the fear of losing his job in a field that rarely waits, 76-year-old Michael Ironside displays perseverance and focus in 2026. His estimated net worth of about $8 million reflects less the wealth generated by blockbuster movies than the perseverance he has built over decades of roles and scars. Anthony Edwards played Goose Goose, a kind-hearted radar operator, in the 1986 film Top Gun. At just 24 years old, he brought humor and compassion to a film known for its speed and self-centeredness, only to suddenly disappear in one of the most shocking deaths in 1980's film history. The moment became a permanent part of his image in pop culture. Born July 19, 1962, in Santa Barbara, California, Edwards quickly learned that success didn't automatically mean opportunity. After Top Gun, the film industry couldn't imagine him playing any other role than Goose. Ambitious projects like The Miracle Mile, 1988, and Pet Sematary, 2992 demonstrated his versatility and willingness to take risks, but uncertain box office results convinced him that supporting roles were better suited for him. The pressure, though unconscious, was well known and became a lingering, festering professional wound. Beneath this stress lay deeper, long-suppressed wounds. Edwards later revealed that he was struggling with the psychological trauma of childhood sexual abuse, which resurfaced during times of extreme professional stress. These effects manifested themselves in a constant state of anxiety, withdrawal, and vulnerability that haunted him from one shoot to the next. His big break came with the film Emergency. And from 1994 to 2002, Edwards played Dr. Mark Green, a role that reflected his own calm and emotional reserve. The demanding series, with its intense filming schedules, moral tension, and emotional outbursts, earned him a Golden Globe and several Emmy nominations. His decision to leave wasn't just a result of creative exhaustion. It was a conscious decision to protect himself after nearly a decade of portraying the pain of others on screen. Edwards will be 64 in 2026. He remains committed to philanthropy and values authenticity over fame. The financial stability he achieved on Emergency, his net worth is estimated at about $40 million, gives him the rare luxury of retiring without having to disappear from the spotlight. He values a full, traditional life more than constant public attention. Tom Skerritt as Viper, the veteran commander of the Top Gun program, in the 1986 film Top Gun, portrayed by Tom Skerritt himself. At 53, he stood out among his younger airmen. He exuded an innate authority that seemed sincere. His calm voice and reserved demeanor served as the emotional anchor of the film. But behind this quiet strength lay a career marked by pressure, uncertainty, and constant adjustment. Born on August 25, 1933, in Detroit, Michigan, Skerritt began her Hollywood career without any quick fixes. Her career flourished during a tumultuous new era in Hollywood, where stardom was not guaranteed. Even after her breakthrough role in 1970's MASH, his studios were reluctant to trust her as an actress who could wow audiences, limiting her to supporting roles and lesser-known projects. He went through periods of stagnation just to make a living while younger. Less experienced, more disciplined actors rose to the top. The pressure was gradual, not sudden. Skerritt bore the psychological burden of having to outdo himself and make several films in a row without being guaranteed a major film series. His performances in Alien, 1979, and The Dead Zone, 1983, brought him cult fame, but they didn't erase his insecurities. Each success brought with it a new challenge, a new reminder that perseverance requires perseverance more than recognition. Instead of giving up, he got back up. In the 1990s, Skerritt moved into television with the series Picket Fences, 1992-1996. The role required emotional stability and moral depth week after week. She won a Primetime Emmy Award for the role, a testament to her long-term commitment. She continued to work regularly in the following years, appearing in series such as A River Runs Through It and Contact. In 2017, she reunited with her former Lucky castmates and participated in creative projects for veterans, using art as a form of social interaction. In 2026, at the age of 93, Tom Skerritt lives a quiet life, still valued more for his discipline than for the ostentatious display of his wealth. With an estimated net worth of around $8 million, his legacy is measured not by box office success but by his perseverance and long career. While many of his other careers quietly fade into oblivion,